What's up, guys and gals? It's your boy Vino Valentino, and welcome back to 60-Second Cocktails. This is the YouTube PubCrawl. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to have my buddy and fellow Puerto Riqueño, Gabriel from Liquid Memoir. Gabriel, say hello to all my fans.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Vino.
Oh, Gabe, man, thanks so much for being on, man. It's really exciting I'm excited to have all these guys on, but a fellow Latino, a fellow Puerto Rican is always something I take great pride in.
Yes.
So I'm excited to touch on that a little bit, and obviously to touch on your history as a bartender. All right, so first, rule number one, what is Mr. Gabriel drinking?
I am drinking a daiquiri.
Daiquiri.
Yeah, so...
Man,
I had to go with rum, especially going with you. It's made with Don Q Blanco.
Nice.
So
All right. So you see my bottle there. He's looking at it. He knows.
Exactly.
So Gabe, tell them why this is significant. Tell them.
So it's from a small distillery in Ponce, Puerto Rico. It's called the Cerales Distillery. It's actually the only Puerto Rican rum that they source their orange sugar cane. So it's a beautiful rum, pretty well balanced. It works great in daiquiri. The añejo that you're using right now, it works great on an old fashioned, but you can use it in many different ways.
Yeah, I do a lot of Puerto Rican old fashions. That's what I call them.
Yeah.
They technically people call them Cubans. I call them Puerto Rican. So that's one thing I love about Gabe. Gabe is incredibly knowledgeable, not just about cocktail making, but just kind of like the history of things and stuff like that. He just kind of is all up in there. So that's something that's always impressed me about him.
That's very kind.
Yeah, so and that's the beauty, honestly, of this whole niche, man. Like everybody's got their kind of strengths and what they do, what kind of is like their thing. You know, some guys are like incredible chefs in the kitchen. I always say you are too, but like these guys, like people like Kevin Cos who make things that are just like so beautiful. Plus his production. And then people like you who are just very knowledgeable about things and stuff, and then some guys, who just have fun doing things. I consider myself one of those guys who just kind of makes it fun and stuff. So, I think that's one of the beauties of this niche, man. It's like a little bit for everybody. And if you're a lover of cocktails, you shouldn't get bored because there's no real repetition here.
Exactly.
Even with specific cocktails, everybody kind of makes it their own way and stuff,
Yeah, and everybody brings their own self. There's so many. Even though we may make the same cocktail in one video, it's always fun to see what other people are doing and how they're doing it, and just like how they bring themselves to each video, which is really fun to watch.
Exactly. So, Gabriel, salud.
Salud.
Cheers, my brother.
Cheers.
All right, Gabe. So we're going to start off with my favorite new game show, the Fast Pour. I'm going to ask you 6 questions. You have 60 seconds to answer them. It's lightweight, dude. It's so lightweight. I think I'm going to have to increase it. I'm going to have to increase it. I just feel like if I'm putting people on the spot, maybe they'll buckle a little bit. But so far, no one has. Actually, I had Carl on. And Carl couldn't do it. Carl couldn't tell me what.
I have a feeling that it's going to go down to the wire here.
You'd be surprised how easy it is, my friend. All right, so we are going to begin. Ready?
I'm ready.
Right now. All right, Gabe. Favorite cocktail?
Favorite cocktail, daiquiri.
Ah, there you go. Favorite spirit?
Favorite spirit, rum.
All right. Favorite hangover food?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with eggs.
Eggs, really? Wow, cool.
Yeah.
All right, your favorite bar?
Favorite bar? Oh my God, American Bar, the Savoy.
Okay, cool. New York or Miami?
Yikes, man!
Let's go. You got to answer,
got me that New York.
All right, sweet, man. And your favorite YouTube channel, not called 60-Second Cocktails. It doesn't have to be a cocktail channel. It could be anything.
I'm gonna say Joshua Weissman channel.
Josh Weissman was all right. So we ended it. You did it. You did good. I want to follow up on that one. All right, good. Yeah, 10 seconds left. Not bad.
Nice. I did better than I thought.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. So repeat that last one. Who was that?
Joshua Weissman.
I feel like I know the name, but I'm so bad with names.
So that's his name, and he also his cocktail channel. I mean, not cocktail. Sorry. His YouTube channel is named after him. He does mainly cooking. He was a chef, and he does house-made cooking, and he takes all these things that you can see in either fast food, but makes it better at home, he just teaches you about like nice classic techniques and shows you how to apply it at home.
Oh, cool. That's funny, like because Rob from Rob's Home Bar, has a similar kind of thing. You know, he has a cocktail channel, loves cocktails, but his favorite channel is he loves cooking channels,
Mhm.
and his favorite is Babish.
Oh yeah, Benjamin Babish.
Yeah.
They're both up there. They're both like pretty popular.
Are they really? All right, cool,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
All right, Gabe. So listen, so let's get right into it, man. Like, tell us a little bit about your like where are you from? I know you kind of moved around a bit. So if you could just kind of go through that, that'd be kind of cool. And tell us a little bit about what you're doing now professionally, if you're working.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Gabriel Morales.
Mm-hmm.
But people can call me Gabe. So my friends call me Gabe usually. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. So I was born in Bayamon, which
Okay.
is
Oh, that's where
very close to the.
my family's all from Bayamon.
Oh wow,
Nice, nice.
nice. So I was born up there, but I was raised all the way northwest of Puerto Rico in a very small town called Moca.
Mocha. Wow, I
I
never heard of that town before. Wow.
lived all my life in Puerto Rico. I was raised, and then when I was in the middle of college, I decided to move, and I moved to New York City. So straight from the island, I moved to New York City, and it was crazy because
How old are you again?
I am 28 now.
No,
I
how old
moved
were you when you moved here?
when I moved, it
Yeah,
was when I was 20.
20. Okay, 20. All right.
8 years ago, almost 9. So I'm turning
I mean, that's gotta
29.
be pretty intimidating at that age, you know, because you're like a kid, you don't really get it, but at 20, you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, you know?
Especially at that age that you think you know it all. You think
Mm-hmm.
you're a wise ass and you can
Yeah.
get around the world, but oh my God, no,
Yeah.
it
And
was
then, and listen, New York will humble you quick,
exactly
quick.
very quick. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know what I was gonna do. At the
So
beginning, I was kind of
you were a Puerto Rican that came to New York and didn't know anyone.
exactly.
That's an anomaly, my friend. Actually, not that much anymore because so many Puerto Ricans have left. My entire family, except for my immediate family, are in Florida now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they've all left to Florida. I mean, growing up, the Bronx, you know, Harlem, all Puerto Rican, super big Puerto Rican
Yeah.
influence, but not so much anymore. So the
Yeah.
Dominicans now, a lot more Dominicans and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. You see, I mean, that's one of the great things about New York, the diversity and
Mm-hmm,
so many different cultures that's out there.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I lived there for 8 years, and last year I moved to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I've been here
And what brought you to Miami?
so initially was a job. I worked
Okay,
at a place called Jaguar Sun here in
Jaguar Sun.
Miami. It's in downtown Miami.
Restaurant bar.
Yeah, restaurant bar. I
Mhm.
was managing and bartending. So it
Okay,
was my official title as a manager,
okay.
even though I'd done managerial things. But yeah, that was the main thing. But basically, I was looking for something outside of New York. It was going to be either stay in New York or go somewhere else. And the reason was I just wanted to just try something else and
Yeah.
just try it out. And I even still talk with some friends from New York City and say, hey, like New York is not going to go anywhere. If you ever want to come back, you
Yeah,
can come back, and it's not going to be super hard
yeah.
to find a job. Well,
And right now,
things a little different now, of course, but
yeah, but you know what? Honestly, I mean, that being said, I mean, if you are a New York bartender or someone in the hospitality industry, Florida is probably one of the few places you can go and still have a shot of maybe working. You know,
yeah,
you can't. New York is dead. It's dead. It's and
yeah.
God knows when it's going to come back. You know, I'm from the events and catering industry, and I can't tell you, man. It's over for a long time for us, man. You know, you're not going to get crowds of 400 or 500 people, commingling for a long time. You know, vaccine or
So
not.
unfortunate.
So, even like with the restaurant business, if you want to go bartend, it's tough because a lot of restaurants don't have indoor dining and stuff, or it's very,
Yeah.
very limited. New York City's falling apart. I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, man.
Yeah.
You know?
I hear you. I keep in touch with some friends, and it's very sad to hear all these great bars and all these even great restaurants that are closing their doors, and it's tough. Like I hear you. I
when places like Delmonico's and stuff close down, you kind of like say to yourself, like, oh man, like what's going on here, man? 11 Madison's closing down apparently. I mean, this is like, these are like really high-end establishments. They just can't they can't, it's also part of the rent on top of that. It's hard to do to go if you're a high-end restaurant, right? Like a lot of restaurants have been able to stay open because they were doing to go.
Right.
But if you're a high-end establishment, you can't do that. You can't. It's hard to change your entire menu over to that. And also in the middle of Manhattan, no one's there. It's like not people. It's no one lives there, so you're not gonna
Yeah.
need to go in the middle of Midtown or something.
And a lot of those places, they used to have their tasting menu with like wine and just like a very big culinary experience. But then how are you going to get that to go?
That's so hard to convert into something else.
Yeah, it's very, very hard.
What have you found the Miami scene to be like? Because you're in Miami, right?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, so Miami. Is it like, because I think your governor made it kind of like you're fully open, right?
Yeah, so it's very different. The governor says one thing and then the mayor says another thing.
Oh, okay.
So it's here in Miami, we're at 50% capacity.
Okay.
But there's a curfew daily until midnight, and anyone can go. There's indoor and outdoor for now. And the one thing is that nobody can be standing. So there's no standing by the bar.
Really?
There is bar seating, but it has to be 6 feet apart. And masks on at all times unless you're dining or drinking.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds similar to us here. We're at 50% capacity in the suburbs of New York City, but New York City itself is at. I think New York City is nothing right now. I'm not 100% sure. It kind of keeps changing.
I heard it's outdoor dining only.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's only. I mean, in terms of indoor, I don't think it's any indoor right now. It was at 25% at one point, and then it just kind of peeled that back.
Yeah, I heard that. Which outdoor dining right now in like a 10 degree weather, sometimes even single digit. That's really rough.
It stinks, man. I'm hoping to get Johan, whiskey bitters, sugar bitters, whatever. On because he works in the city.
Oh wow!
And just to kind of pick his brain to see how things are, because again, I'm coming from the catering side, the event side, and there's nothing. Right. There's some life in the restaurants, but I don't know how much there is. So hopefully he'll give me some insight on that. So Gabe, all right, so you moved from Puerto Rico to Nueva York to Miami. Do you think this is it? You find that Miami is the place for you? Do you think maybe you'll go back to Puerto Rico and kind of hope that you can kind of ride that wave of the Puerto Rican Renaissance everyone keeps hoping happens and stuff? I mean, what are you thinking?
That's a great question. I think for now, for the immediate future, so within a year, I still see myself in Miami. Past that, I don't know what the future unfolds. I want to keep my options open. I don't want to say I'm just gonna stick here in Miami, or next year I see myself in Puerto Rico and that's gonna be it no matter what. It's cool to set goals like that, but I like to keep my doors open,
especially in this particular industry. Like there's no reason to, unless you own a restaurant, there's no real reason to owe anybody anything really.
Exactly. And I definitely want to keep my doors open into any opportunity that comes.
What would be
whether it be with a bar or whether it be with a YouTube channel, whatever it is, I want to keep myself open to anything.
Yeah. So, all right. So that kind of goes into my next question. So in terms of outside of YouTube, let's just say YouTube isn't a thing, it never existed, whatever. What would be your ultimate goal professionally? To own a restaurant, to own a bar, to just be a beverage director? I mean, what would be something you this is what I'd like to do?
I think
maybe even outside of that brand.
I think within like a year or two, a beverage director is a great goal. And then eventually, as a beverage director, if I get that opportunity to become some sort of partner, I think having equity of a place is a big goal. Especially in the last two to 3 years, I've been thinking more of a future, especially as industry folks. I'm sure you can relate. You don't get too many. You don't get too much insurance for your future. No. You don't get health insurance. You don't get life insurance. You don't get pretty much anything. You have to figure it out yourself. So I've been thinking about that a lot. Whether it be saving some money for something else and just figuring things out outside of work. Because if you don't do it for yourself, nobody's going to do it.
No, it's not. So let's get to your YouTube channel. Like, at what point was it that kind of occurred to you? Like, damn, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I mean, let's be frank. A lot of guys in our industry and a lot of people in general really kind of started their their YouTube channels now because of COVID. They were home, and I think people like you and I wanted to utilize our skills and knowledge base. Other people just found something that they like to do, and they started their channels. So. What was it that kind of triggered you to do it?
Well, just like you said, a lot of people lost their jobs during 2020, and myself included. So I knew it was coming. So first I was furloughed, but I was still receiving some income. But I knew it was coming. When you have that feeling. So one day the boss called me. He said, "Hey, let's have coffee together." I'm like, "Okay, fine." So I went over there.
That can only go two ways, right?
Yeah. So, and I knew it. I knew it was coming because
given the time,
if it was for something for me to come back, I felt like it would have been like quick phone call and that's it, like a yes or no.
Hey, Gabe, can you come in next week?
Yeah, exactly. But more in person, deep talk, face to face. I knew it was coming. But even though I knew it was coming, it's still different when you hear it. I understand. And look, I was a salary person, and being a salary and also the first one to come in last year, it was one of those like first in, first out kind of situation.
It sucks, man.
Yeah, it sucks, but you gotta move on. But then while I knew it was coming, I was thinking for a few days and I couldn't sleep, and I was watching YouTube. I found myself watching a lot of YouTube, especially Joshua Weissman, which is the channel I told you about earlier. And there was something inside me, like, first of all, a little pause. So I did a lot of acting in my earlier days. I was into acting, I was into theater, and I was into film and television.
All right.
And then
were you doing that in New York?
Yeah, I was doing that in New York. So I was doing that in bartending. And then I was thinking, wait, what if I can do what this guy is doing? Exactly what he's doing, but with cocktails. What would that be?
Yeah.
And it kind of just clicked. And then that was in June 2020, and I didn't post my first video until August 28th, 2020.
Okay.
So I started doing research. I'm a kind of guy that just starts doing research. Okay, how am I going to do this? What do I need? How can I start this with a minimum budget? And how can I just get the ball rolling? And that's how it kind of started. And I did not know anything about recording and anything about using Adobe programs, and that was like the biggest wall that I hit in the middle.
I would think bending down for your videos or bending onto your knees, whatever, would be the biggest hurdle.
Yes,
you got to tell us about that, Gabe. You got to tell us about that,
man. So
it's fantastic.
I didn't know where to record. That was one of my biggest issues. I was like,
so just real quick for you guys that don't know. He's changed the format now, so it's more standard. But prior to this new format, Gabe was taller than his table, so he would bend down, like do his spiel, then pop up to do the recipe. It was hysterical, and I always think to myself, that guy's poor knees are gonna be killing him when he does this for another few years.
Like I told you in private message, I thought about getting myself some knee pads because it did hurt for a long time. And you know how sometimes I would mess up my videos all the time, and I would have to go back and say the thing again, and then later on just edit. But yes, I've some videos I would find myself on my knees for a very long time, and once you get up, I'm like, oh my god, my knees.
And this is already an industry where you're on your feet all night and all day, so it's like that's extra damage you don't need there, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
You're still young, so trust me. My age, I'm not getting up. I'm recording the whole thing on my knees.
Yeah. So basically the reason behind that is that I have a small space where I'm living at right now, and the kitchen is long enough but it's not wide enough.
Okay.
So the cameras, I'm using at least two cameras. The cameras were pretty much against the window. I have pretty big windows, but they were just against the window. You have I didn't have the flip out screen, so I would have to like look over and try to like see if everything looks right, and then go back at it and make sure that the framing is right and the lighting is right. And then so the framing was really tight as well. You know how pictures you can kind of move away from it, you can kind of like get a good framing and move around, but video is much tougher, especially when you don't have a gimbal and you can't move around. So I did a play where I was a bartender. Fair enough. So
that was a stretch, right?
Yeah. So in the beginning of that play, they had me once the play started, I was I was in the set already, but I
Mm-hmm.
was hiding behind the bar. And when I was supposed to enter the stage, they just had me come up the bar. And that's how I was like, oh wait, what if I just pop up out of the bar
Uh-huh.
and do my spiel, do my intros, and then just go straight to the cocktail.
It's funny though. Like I got so used to it, I kind of was, you start to like it. You start like, oh,
Yeah.
that was like you almost like the part of the charm of it all and stuff like that. But I like the new thing now with the whole kind of sitting on the sofa and let's talk about the cocktail and stuff, the history of the
Yeah,
cocktail
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
stuff. Because again, that's part of something I said like you like I put you on the spot and told you to talk about Danku and you were able to do it, right? Like you just have a certain database in your brain that's I think it's part of the charm of your channel, and I imagine part of the future of your channel is to continue to like provide that kind of
Thank you.
information, and I
That's
think that's why obviously you set it up the way you have now.
Yeah, thank you. For I can't also I have to big shout outs to my helper, my girlfriend.
Oh
She helps me
man,
with the
yeah,
videos, and
that's
she
awesome.
has given me so many like insight and like,
Oh,
why don't
good,
you do
good,
this? Why don't you do that?
good,
So
good.
basically coming out of the bar was her idea, even though it was something from that I did in the past.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, you couldn't have said it any better. Even though the format has changed a little bit, and I do miss like that pub effect, but I'm still figuring things out, and I'm sure things will change and evolve into something else.
absolutely, man,
But
absolutely, absolutely. Look, I'm constantly thinking like, oh, what could I add to this? How can I do that? You know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't think you ever want to become complacent. You know what I'm saying? Because there's always something. There's always a new channel. There's always the big dogs that are doing something different. So you're and it's YouTube, man. This is a race. This is a marathon if there is
exactly.
any. Like I knew going into it, this was going to be hard.
Right.
I like you. I did so much research. I mean, I obsessed over research, like with the most successful ways to start a channel, and then obviously trying to really tap into my knowledge base as someone who is a techie, and also has a 15 years experience in the beverage business. Now, my experience was really wine. So, I worked at a really high end venue, and most of what we did was big galas and big dinners. So I was the food and beverage director. So I did a lot of food and wine pairing and stuff like that. So that was really my strength. And I prepare obviously the bars and specialty cocktails. So I did a lot of specialty cocktails. So the reality is I wasn't making too many of the classic cocktails because I would always make a cocktail based on the client's theme. So that's kind of my strength. That's why I love to like create, new cocktails. Part of this cocktail challenge thing we do is because it's fun. I find it fun to do that. I just put out my spicy one today. And so, it was fun. I redid the Bronx cocktail and I made it, I called it the Bronx is Burning. So it's a cool little take on that whole thing. So anyway, so I love to do that. So for me, it was challenging myself to get better at the cocktail side of the beverage business. I knew it, I knew it well, but I wouldn't say I was, terribly, like an expert or anything in that side of things. Wine, I forgot about wine. Look, I don't want to include wine into the show, to be honest with you. I just really want to kind of focus on cocktails.
Honestly, and I mean, you bring up many great points, but first of all, wine is such a huge world. I respect the hell out of everyone that is in one wine business, and I respect everything about it. I wish I had more knowledge about wine.
That's why I respect your knowledge about cocktails, because that was me on the wine side. Like I could tell you about all the different regions and the terroirs and the all the different flavor profiles. Like that shit I could do to my blue in the face, but I realize how hard that is and how much it takes to remember that stuff and the amount of information you're gathering. Cocktails are just as robust in terms of the kind of information, because you're also remembering the ingredients that are going into these cocktails and why they work together. It's pretty elaborate stuff, man.
Absolutely. Super elaborate.
So, Gabe, speaking of that, I want to. What was your aha cocktail? Like that one that made you fall in love with cocktails? I mean, we've all had that. Mine was the old fashioned. There was a particular one that someone made me, and I was like, holy shit! Like now I get it, and I fell in love with cocktails. What was yours?
It's funny. I don't remember the exact cocktail because I had a few, but I definitely it was when the first time I went to Dutch Kills in New York City. And,
okay, cool.
It's a great little bar. If anyone, I mean, once everything opens up and hopefully they survive.
And they survive, yeah.
Yes. If you're in the New York City area, go to Queens, go to Dutch Kills. It's an amazing.
Those are the guys
bar.
that also that had your coquito recipe, or was that a Brooklyn one?
That's a different bar. Yeah, it's that's the one that I used to work most recently. Yeah. So this place in Queens, they it's very attaboy Sasha Petrosky style of bartending.
Yeah.
They use 100 weight ice. They're all about the ice, all about technique. And many great bartenders have worked at that bar as well. But at the time that I used to go, they didn't have a menu. It was all like taking your orders and just making something out of it. If they had a menu, it was only like a happy hour menu with like 5 cocktails that were all pretty much the same. Just one has ginger, the other one doesn't, the other one has club soda. So very simple. But even though a lot of their drinks were so simple, they were executed perfectly. Perfect balance, perfect temperature, and the presentation was amazing as well. And I remember that I had for the first time there the Imperial Buck, which is in the Buck family. Buck family usually has ginger, lime, spirit, and club soda. The Imperial Buck has pretty much all those, plus the addition of a lot of Angostura and pineapple juice with some dark rum.
Yeah, the Kentucky Buck is one of my favorite cocktails. So I know.
Yes.
Yeah, the Imperial Buck I never heard of, actually. It was cool.
Imperial Buck, yeah. I had it for the first time at that bar. I don't know if it comes from them or from Sam Ross. I can't remember where exactly that cocktail comes from, but they made it for me that one day, and I was just blown away with all these crazy flavors. It was at one point that I was like, I've had a few drinks, just give me whatever you like, that kind of moment. And they gave me that, and I was just like, really blown away.
I love to give bartenders an opportunity to, I was talking to Rob, I think, about this, and I was saying, I like to walk, if I walk into an establishment that looks like a really nice place, it looks like it has like a nice reputable looking bar and stuff, I'll like literally like surveillance this bartender, check out his style, the way he moves, the way he looks, the way he kind of handles the bottles, the glasses. I don't care how long he's been working, how long he's been a bartender. That shit doesn't matter to me. To me, it's like you could sense talent. You could tell by the bottles he chooses, by the care and the technique he takes to create these things. And so then I'll be like, what's the best thing you got? Like, what do you make that you're proud of? And I often find cocktails that I've never had before because the guy just kind of makes something he loves himself, he makes for himself, or it's a version of something that is common, but he makes it that much better. And so there's a place here called the Cookery in Westchester that this guy made me this old fashioned. And he took really long to make it. I was like, what's going on here? But I'm watching him, I'm like, God, this guy's killing it, bro. He's like, the way he was doing it, everything was so great. And when I got it, I was like, this is the best old fashioned I've ever had in my life. And I never turned back at that point. It was
amazing,
awesome, man. So it's great to have that moment. It really is, man.
Yeah.
One of the things I can say about you, bro, is like, when I hear you talk and you throw out stuff that, like, the weight of the ice and, naming, particular mixologists or people that are like Sam Ross and stuff, but you don't do it in a pretentious manner, and I always appreciate it about you because you have this knowledge base, but you're not flipping about it. You're not kind of like, hello, it's like good ice, dude. Like, you're not that guy. And that's bartenders could be assholes, man. You know that. They're snobby,
Yeah.
As a food and beverage director, I hired bartenders all the time. And my thing was, I don't give a fuck how good you are. If you're a dick, like I don't want you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want my clients should feel comfortable knowing that they're going to get a good experience. And if you happen to really know your shit, even better,
Exactly.
And that's definitely the vibe I get from you, which I definitely appreciate. Cause, that as someone who's obviously in the industry, some guys could be a little on themselves.
Yeah. And
they're out there, man.
It sucks to get that asshole or douchey kind of experience. I always try to keep humble because there's always something to learn every single day.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it be behind the bar or just making a YouTube video, there's always something to learn. And I've been humbled in this industry because of past experiences where I've encountered people that aren't as humble, and I know how that feels.
Yeah.
And I don't want other people to feel that way.
Yeah. And like I said, listen, again, 15 years in the food and beverage business, primarily in the beverage side of things. And I have a lot to learn, again, my expertise was wine. I knew a lot about alcohol, but I'm learning so much more now from guys like yourself and just through my own experimentation. And, you know, from the small guys in YouTube to the big guys, they're all learning stuff. You know, Greg from How to Drink was not a bartender, right? He's the biggest channel on YouTube, right? And look, you know, he's got a huge knowledge base now, but he's constantly learning too. So that's the beauty of this industry. Like, you can never know too much and never act like you do, you know?
Absolutely.
So Gabe, tell me one of your best drunk experiences, man. You got to give me a good one. You got to. I've had a couple good ones on here so far. Give me a good one, man.
As me as a drunkie?
You know, actually, I never thought about that, man. You could be you as drunk or someone you know at a bar that got drunk. Like, just give me a good drunk story.
Oof, such a hard one.
I mean, you've had to have a good. There has to be one of those when the bars close and everybody
I've had a few. Around. I've had a few. So I'll give you this one. So it was one of my birthdays, and I was doing a lot of bar hopping in New York City.
Birthday drunks are always the best ones.
So I was dating my girlfriend at the time, so it was just about almost 5 years ago, more or less. And then one of my friends, he's Mexican, and he said to me in the beginning when he met up with me, so every bar that we're gonna go, we're gonna have 2 ounces of tequila and shoot it.
You can't try to outdrink a Mexican, brother. You know that.
I cannot.
God bless their souls, man. Those guys can put it down.
We went to about 5 different bars doing that. And mind you, 2 ounces of tequila and shoot it. Jesus Christ. I was blasted, blasted to the point that by the last bar, it was the place that I knew the bartender was a good friend of mine. And then I knew it was coming that moment. I was like, uh-oh, what do I do? So I had to think quick, and I went to the bathroom, did my thing, and I was like, okay, I feel much better now. Cleaned everything, got out. I was like, let's grab some pizza now. So what happened was, at that time, my friend felt the same way, but my friend disappeared.
Oh.
And we couldn't find him. So it happens that he went to Brooklyn when we all used to live in Queens at the time. And the next day he's telling me, dude, what happened? And he said, I don't know, man. I went to Brooklyn and I woke up in the middle of the subway.
Oh my God.
I don't know how. Which, in fairness, I've done that a few times, dude, too. Like
I've fallen asleep on the train and ended up in another borough. So I get it, dude. It's just,
you know, it's bad when you're falling asleep in the train and then you wake up and everybody's in the morning rush with their coffees and their newspapers, and you're like stupid drunk in the corner with alcohol breath.
I gotta tell you, Gabe, you know, obviously a lot younger than me. You know, actually you are. You're 28, you said, right?
Yeah.
So you know, I grew up during that like 90s club scene in New York City where there was still major clubs. Like, you have them still probably in Miami, but in New York they don't really exist anymore. I'm talking about like old warehouses that were nightclubs, and it was amazing. Yeah, like at Club Exit and Sound Factory, like these places were tremendous clubs. And there was nothing better than going out to a club till 4 a.m, going to get breakfast. And then it's like 6, 7 o'clock, and you're driving home and the sun's coming up and everybody's going the other way to work. And you're like, it's just you and your boys, man. Nobody's talking, but the music's on, man. There was like such a vibe to that, you know, it always made the night that much cooler, you know, to just be like, yo, we killed it tonight. We had a blast, broke night, and we're going home, and you sleep it off for like, you know,
sleep it off.
You know, that was the best, man. But so Gabe, so you are someone, again, I consider incredibly knowledgeable. I respect that a lot about you, but we all have a lot to learn. We all have something to learn, you know. What to you is a blind spot? Something that you wish you knew a little more about? Maybe a specific kind of cocktails that you don't make, or maybe some sort of liquor, or, you know, like, you know, a family of liquor. Like what's something that you would say, like, yeah, you know, I'd like to know a little more about that. Like for me, I always say like Amari. I don't really know. I don't have a great knowledge base on Amaros and stuff.
That's a great question. I think, like I mentioned, there's always something to learn. And one of my biggest weak points, I'm going to say, is Scotch whiskey.
Yeah.
Scotch and Japanese whiskey at that matter. Those two spirits are my weakest points.
Yeah.
And they have been for a very long time. And
It's
I
a
find it
huge category, man.
it's super
It's
huge.
a
And not only that,
huge
I
category.
feel like they're a little bit more tricky to use in cocktail application. They can
Also, the point of entry is high. It's very expensive. It's not like something you can just buy, you know, one of or like three of and not spend too much money. There, even if you want a quality scotch at any type, whether it's a single malt or something that's from the Islas, you know, like it's always going to cost you a significant amount of money. And since there's so many styles, it's like, you know,
yeah, and they're all so different from each other. They all have their notes and different terroirs, different aging style. And I'm just like,
a lot like wine, actually. A lot.
Exactly. And it's pretty overwhelming. Yeah. Even just from the fermentation style to the distillation style, I'm still don't know it all yet at this point. And I need to dig more deeper.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when I was definitely into scotch pretty heavy, but it did become like overwhelming almost. And it was like, I don't know how invested I want to be, especially because again, I was doing the wine stuff. So like, that's like taking on a whole nother realm of information that I just was not like able to, you know, I was also running a huge operation. So like, there's only some, you know, there's the operational side of it, of your job, you know, and there's also just the product side, you know, sometimes you have to kind of balance that so you're not overwhelmed and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, scotch was like something I definitely got into. I got introduced to it through Johnny Walker, which is probably what most guys
Same, yeah.
And then it went into the single malts and it went into the Isla ones. And then I was kind of like, all right, the Isla, the PD stuff, I started to become also something I wasn't a fan of either. Right. I didn't really love that smoky, it was just a little bit too much for me.
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah, it really isn't. And that's like Rob from Rob's Home Bar. Like that's his thing, man. He loves that stuff, bro. He loves the smoky drinks and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's obviously, you know, Rob's always barbecuing and shit. I was telling him he's like a maniac, man. That guy's
barbecuing cocktails.
He's always barbecuing meat. And, you know, he's from Canada, so that's how they keep warm.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I've seen some of his posts too on Instagram that he posts some like, good food.
Meat and scotch. He's like a caveman, that guy. So Gabe, so tell me, listen, what do you see for the future of Gabriel and Liquid Memoir, is, you know, separately and together?
So definitely more content. I want to get acquainted in terms of how to use After Effects. I want to incorporate a little bit more transitional effects or just like a more standard intro. For anyone that has seen my content or hasn't seen my content, so I typically have an intro that is edited every single time, and that takes a long time. I want to be better also in my scripts. So 90% of the time my content is scripted, and I go through it, which takes some time as well. But hopefully it can grow to a point where I can keep growing the bar as well. For now, I've touched upon this with other people and also with family members, but I'm not going to stop. Even if it takes working one or two jobs, even if there wasn't any pandemic, I say this a lot, I would still find myself working one or two jobs to be able to sustain paying all my bills and be able to invest in this hobby, let's call it right now. And the dream is to be able to pay bills from something that you grow. So yeah, like I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. Hopefully you'll see more collaborative efforts with other small YouTubers.
I know I got something I want to do with you. Something Puerto Rican. You know, I'm thinking the pina colada. Like because I think our styles are what would make it funny. The contrast between, you know, I'm like I'm gonna make it the traditional way. I'm gonna use the canned stuff. I'm gonna do all that shit. And while I know you're gonna come out with some crazy, whatever you're gonna do to make your stuff by hand. I think that kind of contrast where we can show the two versions. So as opposed to you doing both of the versions on your show, you know, I could do the basic version, and then you could do the other version. We kind of do it side by side, which I think would be great, like something like this. You know, that's something me and Rob talk a lot. We always talk about strategy and stuff like that. And one of those things is like these collaborations are so good. They're so good for the niche. They're good for our community, and I think they're good for our individual channels and for the growth of our channels and stuff. So these the collaborations are great. Part of why I'm doing this channel is to help spread that kind of awareness that these other great guys are out there, and they're not just making cocktails. They're smart guys. They're nice guys. They're funny. However you come across during these interviews, I want them to be able to realize that there's more to it than just kind of like, 2 ounces of bourbon and 1 ounce of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I personally, because I know I have a big personality. I know how I am outside of the camera, and like, the way I appeal to people, and I want to be able to project that more on YouTube. And it's kind of hard to do that when you're just teaching people how to make a cocktail. And so this show hopefully will give me and my guests an opportunity to kind of show themselves off a little bit outside of, like, again, 2 ounces of this, 1 ounce of that, and shake it.
Right. And it's props to everyone, really, because it's really hard to put your face in the internet.
It's hard, man. It's there forever, dude.
Really hard.
There's no turning back the clock now. We're here, man. Nope. We're stuck on the internet.
We out there, and it's gonna stay in YouTube and in Google forever. So.
Especially because it's the fact is forever, and if you kind of don't keep going with it, it's like almost a waste of like that privacy's gone, and you don't even get anything out of it. You know what I'm trying to say? This is a long. This is gonna be a long haul. Yeah. Some guys get this kind of instant success, like, listen, and just rightfully so. Like someone like a Cocktail Time with chemical, they blew up fast, dude. Amazing production, got a great shout out from Truffles on the Rocks, and things went well for them, and God bless them. They have a great show. Right. And even Truffles too, he kind of took off this year too. So some guys take off pretty quick, but those are anomalies, man. Most of them are like us, I think most of the guys that started like us around COVID are in that 200 to 300 sub range, around 400. I think we're all kind of there, because the growth, if you're consistent, is going to be kind of pacing this way.
But you touch on it. There's growth, even though it's not as like thousands of subscribers. There's still some growth.
There's still growth, exactly. And that's what keeps you going if you are patient.
Exactly.
But I gotta tell you, Gabe, man, like if you look at someone like Anders, right, who's a fantastic show, right, and David from Booze on the Rocks, they became monetized recently, and they went from 1,000 to almost 2,000, 3,000 like this.
It's something
because that's where the algorithm works. Like once they get you at that point, YouTube's like, all right, good. You put your work in, you committed to us. Now we're going to reward you, because their numbers are skyrocketing. God bless them. They're great. I mean, David and Anders are fantastic. Completely different styles.
Yes, exactly. But they're both entertaining. They both have great content. But yeah, it's a marathon in the beginning. It's gonna hurt. There's a lot of blood and tears, but at the end of the day, once you get to that threshold of the algorithm, YouTube can reward you, and it's rewarding.
And those guys, honestly, are a good example of why you shouldn't ever underestimate your appeal, because we're just as different as they are. You know what I'm saying? In terms of our style, right? I would consider myself more on the David side. I consider you more on the Anders side. And they were able to both be successful with those very different styles, exactly. And I think that's a good example of, hey, stay at it, put out consistent content, be confident in what you do, and always try to refine it if you can. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
I think one thing, like me and David, for instance, we're comical, but we're not trying to look stupid either. Like we know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you and Anders are very knowledgeable, but you don't want to be boring. You know what I'm saying? So there's that fine line, right? Where you're like, this is my shtick, but I got to make sure I don't overdo it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's that balance, because listen, I take liquor and beverage incredibly serious.
Yeah, I'm sure we all do.
Personally, I do. But when I'm on the camera, I want to have fun, because that's my thing again. And you have an incredible knowledge base, and you want to project that without being like Professor Gabriel, like, you know what I'm saying? Because that shit can get boring, and all of a sudden no one's watching you anymore. Yeah, I think you play that line really well. You come across really well and stuff.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
So, Gabe, before we go, like I said, I wanted to touch on you being Puerto Rican and myself and stuff like that. And I just got to ask you a couple Puerto Rican questions, man.
Do it.
favorite salsero. So for you people that don't know, salsa is the music of Puerto Rico, and you know, it's something I'm absolutely passionate about. And one of my favorite artists, probably, you know, my favorite artist, you know, Mark Anthony's right there, but Tito Rojas just passed away.
Tito
And I was
Rojas,
absolutely devastated, brokenhearted. You know, reminds me so much of my grandfather, and you know, it just really broke my heart. His music is such a big part of my life and stuff like that. So, you know, Mark Anthony's kind of like the Frank Sinatra of salsa music. So, you know, people kind of in America associate him with Jennifer Lopez, and maybe they don't really realize the impact he has in the Latin American community. He's incredibly significant. So he's kind of the favorite for most people on a different level. But there's that other guy, you know what I'm saying? And mine is definitely Tito Rojas.
I'm going to give you a specific title so people can look it up and listen to this song.
An album?
No, a song.
Oh, okay.
Specific song. Specific song. Que Lío by Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe.
Yes.
That one is like, I love old school salsa.
You like the old stuff.
I really love it. And
I gotta tell you, that's something about. So this is a reality.
Yeah.
Puerto Ricans and there's New Yorkers.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. That's just what it is, right? I'm a New Yorican. I love the island. I love the culture and stuff like that. And there's a great, profound respect and admiration for people from the island. But we have a different kind of outlook on the culture too. You know what I'm saying? Like you guys born in the island, that's your shit, man. You guys are listening to music differently, eating music differently, and absorbing it differently from us. It's just because of what it is. Whatever the exposure we have here is a little different from what you have there.
Exactly.
And so, like, a lot of the people from like the Puerto Ricans I know that are like from the island, that's what it is, man. Is the Fiana All Stars. It's these guys, like these old school salsa artists, and you know the even the people from, you know, the musicians from Cuba and stuff like that. You know, like Cruz and stuff. You know, like that's where a lot of their real love for salsa is.
Which was funny because it's very true, ditto on everything you said. But also, I never really listened to salsa until I moved to New York City.
Really?
So there was, I listened to it and I knew it. I knew about it, of course, but I wasn't super into it until I moved to New York City. And there was just something that I connect every time I listened to it. It would just connect me back to the island, connect me back to my people, and I just had like that. I mean, I'm having goosebumps.
Yeah,
right now.
I get the same way.
Talking about it, it was so intriguing and so like I will connect.
Well, let me tell you from a New Yorkers perspective, and I'm getting goosebumps myself. You know, that's the passion Puerto Ricans have. I mean, you know, when you see us waving our flags like crazy, it's because there's such a passion there. You know, whether you're from the island or not. For New Yorkers, it's our connection to the island. You know, so, you know, we don't live there. We weren't born there. We may visit it. We may do this, but it's not the same. So for us, that's our closest connection is the music, and the food. You know what I'm saying? So like for us, the music, obviously, it takes. We listen to it so much here because it's our one way of escaping to Puerto Rico.
It's a passion, and like we're both very passionate. Whether you be Puerto Rican or New Yorican, we're still passionate people, and we still have that fire and that love towards our culture and our people. Yeah,
it's true, man. It's amazing. So one last question. And so let's to touch on Puerto Rican cocktails and drinks. Is there a drink or anything that like a Puerto Rican cocktail that maybe you want to tell people about that we don't know? Because, you know, I know the pina colada and stuff like that, and coquito and stuff like that. Is there like a secret kind of Puerto Rican cocktail out there that maybe the rest of the country doesn't really know about yet?
So it's very typical in Puerto Rico to drink wiki coco, we call it.
Wiki coco. Don't know it.
So lots of Puerto Ricans drink whiskey, Johnny Walker Black, any scotch, the blended scotch, and top it off with coconut water.
Really?
Yes. So it's a highball, simple 2 ingredients, and
with coconuts water, or like
coconut water
stuff, like from
coconut water.
Wow,
so it could be like the canned stuff or like,
but just loves coconut water.
Coconut water. Yes. So very popular. A lot of people love it.
That's cool, man. I want to try that.
And I've been actually thinking of making an episode with
that'd be cool, man. That'd be awesome, man. That's one thing also that I failed at a little bit so far. It's kind of connecting with that part on my show so far, and I think you did a great job with the pina colada, not the pina colada, coquito. You haven't done a pina colada yet, right?
I haven't.
No, yeah. So,
It's in the,
like I said, hold off on that one because I want to do that with you. I want to do that with you.
Let's talk about it right after
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So I think that's cool to like that fact that you've touched on that because it's such a vibrant culture and it's something that when people, Puerto Ricans are incredibly proud of the culture and stuff. So that's cool, man. Really quick before we go, there's a Puerto Rican moonshine called Pituro. Now I'm sure you've had that, right?
Pitoro, yes.
Pitoro,
yes.
yeah. You're Rican. There we go.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I didn't mean to like correct you.
No, I love it. No, dude, I am not sensitive, my friend. You can say anything. I love it. My Spanish is so bad because I've been in New York for so long. I married an Italian. All my friends are Italian, so I don't speak it enough. But that stuff I love, and so it's something that for a long time we only could get it someone made it, and it would either bring it here somehow or they would make it at home.
I don't know if it's still illegal. It was illegal for some time.
Oh, I'm sure it's still illegal. But there's a distillery now in the Bronx called the Port Morris Distillery that makes it. They bottle it. It's a legitimate bottle of Pituro. Pituro? Or Pitoro? Pitoro. There you go. Oh, I got
the R. You got to roll the R.
Yeah. So anyway, so they make that. And I'm dying to, I have to make a trip to pick up a bottle and make some cocktails with it. And I'm going to send you a link to their page. They've got all different types of infused versions and stuff like that. And I think they mail. So I think they'll mail it to Florida if you want a bottle and stuff like that. I'm interested to see what this kind of commercial version of it would be like, and whatnot. Anyway, Gabe, man, listen, thank you so much for being on the show, brother, man. It was a great honor to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me, Vino.
Gabe, let everybody know
fun.
Let them know where they can find you, by the way, all over your social medias.
Yes, of course. For anyone that's watching, you can find me in all socials and YouTube, Liquid Memoir, youtube.com/Liquid Memoir, or socials @Liquid Memoir. Feel free to DM me. Feel free to comment and whatever. I'm pretty active on all that stuff. But yeah.
All right, guys, and stay tuned for Pino Colada collabo between two Puerto Rican, a New Rican and a Puerto Rican. And a lot of him correcting my Spanish. Anyway, guys, listen, thanks for tuning in. And remember, when life gives you lemons,
make yourself a lemon.
No lemonade. Wait, what are you talking about? It's a cocktail show. Make yourself a cocktail. Cheers.
Cheers.